Good morning, Africa. Rise and shine. This is Wake Up Africa, the fourth episode coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. And today we are going to ponder on the impact of education system in Africa. This is coming live to you from Nairobi, Kenya. Yes, from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm happy and greatly honored to be visiting this wonderful African country coming from Rwanda where I had some work, but I also had the opportunity to talk to the team in Rwanda. I'm totally grateful. But in all essence, it's been 1 month. We are doing this is the fourth episode. It's been 1 month since we started this podcast. And in a very special way, I would like to really appreciate the producers, the team behind Wake Up Africa. The producers, these are none other but Essa, um, all the way from Tanzania, and Noreen, all the way from Tanzania. I know soon you'll be producing Wake Up Africa all the way from the US of A, but really, I am appreciative of the support you have to Wake Up Africa. But I would also like to really thank our regional team, Aminata from Tanzania, Patricia from Kenya, Alan Subi from Uganda, Remy from Rwanda, Elliot from Burundi, not to forget Collins from South Africa, Mr. Talks from Nigeria, and Anna from South Sudan for all your support and being part of Wake Up Africa. We all can attest we are rewriting Africa's narrative, and this is why Wake Up Africa was started at first instance. Finally, to all of you, our wonderful followers from all over Africa, um, really like to thank you really for your contributions, questions, and comments through our various social media platforms. And thank you because together we stand as one continent and together we are changing Africa's narrative. We are going on a quick break, 5 seconds, and when we come back, we are going to the episode 4 of Wake Up Africa. Stay tuned. The episode 4 of Wake Up Africa, coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya, this time around, is going to ponder on does Africa's education system address the needs of the market? Does Africa's education system address the need of the market? Later on, I'll be joined by our regional team to discuss on this topic. But for now, let us ponder onto a few thoughts that I've gathered from discussing with different people across. And of course, you are also welcome to share your thoughts and ideas online. Number one, while a number of graduates from universities across Africa struggle with unemployment, after several years of studies, the question still remains if we still need university degrees to get jobs today. And I'm going later on during this program, slightly later on, to discuss with you the number of graduates we have across Africa, but with a selected few countries, including the countries that we have our correspondents, so they can be able to respond to one or two issues related to these statistics. But again, I'm asking myself, is our education system really preparing the graduates for the job market, current job market, and the future job market? You'll all agree with me the jobs that existed a couple of years ago are not the same jobs that exist today, will not be the jobs that will exist in a few years to come. With all this AI technology coming up through strongly, we are really going to, we need, our education system needs already to start looking onto the jobs that are going to address the needs for the future market. But there are certain people that still believe, I'm not sure, I'm mixed in belief that we're entangled in the pre-education system that does not provide to the needs of the market today. So the education system that we used to have, or our parents and our grandparents had back prior to the colonial era, prior to the independence times to date, is more or less the same. Now, we are still entangled in that system. Question to ask here is what do governments in Africa, what are the plans that they have to change their curriculum to address the needs? And surprisingly, recently I read a biography of someone that I'm following on social on LinkedIn that says he only did two subjects before joining Harvard University in the US of A. And I'm wondering, in Tanzania, country where I studied and I grew up, we have at least a minimum of five subjects in our advanced level prior to joining university. And I kept asking myself, yes, maybe we do so many subjects so that we have many options to going into the university. But at what particular point should a student be advised to take certain subjects, maybe history and mathematics, and go into the university so that they spend a lot of time understanding history and mathematics so that they're able to take that to the university, whereby you then become or you go to either acquire the first degree, which is now to open your mind, or to master those subjects and look onto the career that are related to the two subjects. Economics, for instance, physics, biology, or what particular instance. Because when you have a student in A levels covering many subjects, that means you're decreasing time and time the concentration, the focus onto the core subject that they want to take forward. But this again, I will leave it to the authorities, and you can share your comments. Wake Up Africa, and here we can all hear what your take is on this. What are some of other countries in Africa doing? Do you have equally the same number of subjects um, prior to university as we do in Tanzania? But again, we are looking onto this subject today, and we want to actually rewrite Africa's narrative, especially in the education sector. And before we move forward, I would really wish to quote the founder, the father of the nation, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the founder, and I've picked Julius Kambarage Nyerere because he's been on the forefront in the African liberation movement. So we shall resonate his ideas on education across many African countries. He says education is needed for liberation. He says education is needed for self-reliance. He says education is needed for an inquiry mind. It says education is needed for equality. It says education is needed for fighting poverty. Recently we discussed the mindsets of abundance vis-a-vis mindsets of scarcity. And allow me to expand on the fighting of poverty, where he said education is not a way of escaping poverty, but it is the way of fighting it. When you're educated, you know, it's the way you're given tools to actually fight poverty. And we're going to look onto what education entails, the aspiration that I got recently on as I was pondering on this subject. And I would like to repeat this on that education is not a way of escaping poverty. Education is the way of fighting poverty. This was given by Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the founding father of Tanzania. Education is for self-worth, so it gives us that intensely personal. Education is for critical thinking. And he finishes by saying education for service to the nation. And allow me once again to expand on this. He says the educational system that Tanzania has inherited from the colonialists was not designed to prepare young people for the service of their own country. Well, if Julius Kambarage Nyerere said, education is needed for the service to the nation. And he says that the education system that Tanzania inherited from the colonialists was not designed, quote unquote, was not designed. What does that mean? The curriculum that was used then, pre independence, was designed for the colonialists to serve the interests of the colonialists. Now, he says, when he says the education for service to the nation, he means, or further expounds, that the educational system Tanzania inherited from the colonialists was not designed. And this is all across Africa, all across countries that were colonized back in the days. The system was not designed to prepare the young people for the service of their country. Why? Because whatever that was taught back in the days was to serve the colonial masters, go into agriculture, produce so that the raw materials were shipped outside Africa. And as we had last couple of days, heads of state met in Uganda to discuss how we are going to reduce exportation of raw materials from Africa. And I wonder if this, at some point in that meeting, maybe Alan Sobe later on today, she had any insight about that meeting, could share with us if the education system can explicitly clear that, the system still does not prepare us to serve the colonialists because everything that was produced then went outside the continent. We will be back shortly, and then when we come back, we will be looking on to the number of graduates that we have in Africa every year. Stay tuned. This is Wake Up Africa, back in 10 seconds. This is Wake Up Africa, and I'm honored and delighted today to be broadcasting live Saturday morning from a fine Nairobi city in Kenya. And we are pondering on the education system that Africa has. And I had just finished quoting Mwalimu Nyerere on his final quotation on education for self-service for service to the nation, where he said the educational system, and here he said specifically Tanzania, inherited from the colonialists, was not designed to prepare the young people for the service of their country. And just before we took a short break, I said when we come back, we are going to go on to the number of graduates that we have in Africa. And after this, we are going to look onto the number of jobs that are available in Africa and if there's any connection between the number of people that are absorbed in those jobs and the number of people who are graduating from African universities. Now, to start on how many young people graduate in Africa. First and foremost, we must acknowledge that there are very many universities that come out that mushroom day in, day out. So it's not possible to get the exact number, but African governments really need to do something about this. Okay. When institutions are registered, the registering authorities must be able to then demand when they call for annual reports from these institutions should be able to demand the number of graduates that come from these universities. I struggled myself to get the exact figure, the numbers, and that was the reason that, it's not easy to report. But again, it says according to the available data, it's estimated that several hundred thousands graduate in Africa each year. Hundred thousands of young people graduate in Africa each year. However, the exact number is difficult to pinpoint due to variations in data collections across different African countries and the lack of comprehensive continent-wide statistics. Again, a call to the authorities to really task if they're able to collect financial, audited financial reports, we should be able to be accountable to the number of people that are trained in our various institutions so that we are able now to say in Tanzania, several people graduated. And it's interesting that I'll mention some of the quick facts as we go on Wake Up Africa, this fourth episode, 2025. Nations like South Africa and Nigeria, with the largest population, are likely to be producing a higher number of graduates compared to smaller African countries. We cannot easily, hence, as I said earlier, trace the access of accurate data on African graduation rates due to inconsistencies in reporting across different educational institutions. And again, when we say graduate, the numbers that I'm going to pass shortly are those from the formal, the universities. But we have people graduating from technical institutions, people graduating from, different levels of, and this I'm looking onto not primary level, secondary level. I'm looking from the university diploma, that level up, higher education. So from secondary school going up, how many people do we have graduating in Africa? So in Tanzania alone, and this is information given in 2021, we had approximately 54,800 people. This is Tanzania. What about Kenya? Kenya had 50,000 people graduate every year. So in Tanzania, 54,800, Kenya, 50,000 people, Uganda, 30,000 people. Now, I'd mentioned South Africa and Nigeria being, not largest countries, but countries with many education institutions. South Africa has 235,527. I'll repeat, 233,527. And this number is given as of 2021. What about Nigeria? Nigeria, Mr. Talks, good morning. It's pretty early in Nigeria, but I believe one of these days you will be able to join Wake Up Africa because we are missing a lot from Nigeria. But Nigeria has 600,000 people graduating every year. However, some of us may be asking, okay, so I cannot go on to all the 54 nations in Africa. And allow me to also mention the smallest country in Africa. Do we know which is the smallest country in Africa? It's Seychelles. Yes, the Republic of Seychelles, which has an approximately 100,000 people. And this data is of 2022. Seychelles in 2022 had approximately 100,000 people. I'm looking onto 100,000 people in my country. It's not even a region. It's probably one of the districts, one of the smallest districts we have in Tanzania has a population of 100,000 or plus more. So we have a country, the Republic of Seychelles, that is approximately 100,000, 600 people. And this is as of 2022. It had a few 100 graduates, and mostly graduated from the University of Seychelles. And we're looking onto the University of Seychelles had 90 graduates. 90 graduates. So looking on to Nigeria, where we had over 600,000 graduates, South Africa, over 233,000 graduates, Tanzania, over 50,000 graduates in a year. And this is as of 2021 across many other countries in Africa. What does this tell you? What does this tell you? When we come back after 10 seconds, we're going to go into the nitty-gritties now. How many people graduate approximately in Africa, and how many jobs are created? And what are these jobs? And what then does the education system address the need? Is it the jobs that are pure as compared to the people who are graduating? Is it the graduates that do not have the capacity to be absorbed in the job market? Stay tuned. This is Wake Up Africa, and we are rewriting Africa's narrative looking onto the education sector. Stay tuned, broadcasting live from Nairobi, Kenya. So rise and shine, Africa. This is Wake Up Africa coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. And we are looking onto the impact of Africa's education system into the job market today. Questions to ask yourself. Does this really the education system produce the quality of graduates that are needed or should be absorbed by the job market? From the beginning, we've been looking onto how the education system and quoting again Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, where he said, education is for liberation. Education for liberation is also education for cooperation amongst men. But I would also like when he said for self-reliance, it meant give them the education which will train their heads to refuse. I like this. Give them the education which will train their heads to refuse the wretchedness of mind and skill their hands to develop the resources of Africa. And I remember once upon a time, I cannot give the exact moment where Julius Nyerere said when people came to invest in Tanzanite minerals that are only found in Africa, where he said,
He said,
you know,
you know,
he said, let Tanzania acquire education and they will then be able to go and mine the Tanzanite and other minerals that we have. We're not ready as a country to venture into mining in the mining sector. So he has said, yes, so let's get rid of, wretchedness of minds so that we're able to skill Africans and to develop the resources that we have in Africa. But again, Julius Kambarage said, when he said education for an inquiring mind, the education provided must encourage the development in each citizen of an inquiring mind. The education provided must encourage, okay, the development in each citizen of an inquiring mind. Imagine where you have education system that does not create inquisitiveness in your mind. You know, you're just there. You just go. Whatever you're told, it is okay. One plus one is equal to two. And you do not ask yourself, why is it one plus one equals to two? Why should one plus one be equal to two and one multiplied by one equals to one? You know, when you multiply something should be more, but it's still, you have to have an inquisitive mind, and this is what Walim also called for. But then when he said education for equality, he said the education provided must encourage the development in each citizen of a basic confidence in his and our own position as a free and equal member of the society. After acquiring the education, do you feel that you have equal chances in the society? It says education for equality. That means the education provided must encourage the development in each citizen of a basic confidence in his or her own position as a free and equal member of the society. But again, those who do not acquire formal education, okay, I've introduced a new topic, formal and informal education. Those who do not acquire formal education should equally feel they're part and parcel of the society. Okay. Then education for fighting poverty, as I did say, and I really, really love this quotation. Education is not the way of escaping poverty, it is the way of fighting it. And I've seen Aminata already online. Aminata, good morning from Tanzania. And we'll be happy to discuss with you some of these concepts that were given by the late Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the founding father of Tanzania, will be here when you're ready to join. So he says on fighting poverty that it's not the way, we do not go to school to escape poverty. Okay. As we're writing the narrative, he says the education system is to fight poverty. Education is to give us the tools to show us the way of which we can fight poverty. When it says education for self-worth, William Julius Kambarage said education is intensely personal. Self-worth. Education should be able to show you that you belong. Self-worth. You have a contribution to give and you have something to receive as well. Education for critical thinking. This is one of my favorite. The education provided must encourage the development in each citizen of an ability to learn from what others do and reject or adapt it to their own needs. Education for critical thinking. The education provided, the education provided must encourage the development in each citizen of an ability to learn from what others do. Okay. And I'm looking onto the world today. Okay. In a couple of years, if we had a program like Wake Up Africa that brings different regional teams together, would have been deemed impossible. But here we are. We are able now to hear from Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Nigeria, South Africa, and we're going on to, we've had comments from Ghana, Cameroon, Ethiopia. They're all coming in, sharing comments. They're all following us live as we broadcast Wake Up Africa. Now, from the books we read, I love reading books. From the books we read, from the videos, the TVs that we watch every day, everyone knows that there's storms in Ireland and UK. Everyone is aware of the bushfires in the US of A. So the world has become a village, a global village. That information flies as fast as that. What does this mean? Now we are able to learn what others do, but again, from learning what others do, we have to also look onto our own ways and reject those that do not go in our styles, in our cultures, but also be able to adopt, quickly grasp, quickly adapt what our current needs are. That means if there are things that developed countries are doing, other countries are doing, that can also be beneficial to the needs of Africa, we should also be able to do that. He said that education is for critical thinking. The education provided must encourage the development in each citizen of an ability. Okay? We have to create ability for the citizen or for the students to learn from others and reject or adapt to address our own needs. And finally, he said, when he said to the service of the nation, education to the service of the nation, Molejurius Kambagini meant the education system. But here he specifically said for Tanzania, and I would like to, cascade this across the African continent as we rewrite the narratives. The education system that we inherited from the colonialists was not designed, and this is why we have this topic today, was not designed to prepare the young people for the service of their country. Okay? He ended up there. Now, looking or flipping the coin, that means the education system today should be the one that is designed to prepare the young people for the service of their own country. The one we had pre independence was designed to help or prepare young people to serve the colonialists. But now, ladies and gentlemen, now, my dear followers all over Africa, as we rewrite the narrative, our education system really needs to prepare us for the service of our countries. We will be back in a few seconds. This is Wake Up Africa, and we are looking onto the education system. Does the education system really address the needs of the market? Looking onto the number of graduates that we have from all over Africa, Tanzania 54,000, Kenya 50,000, Uganda about 30,000, and we have Patricia joining shortly in Kenya, and we will be looking also forward to hearing from her what she has to say about the South Africa, about 233,527, and this is as of 2021. Nigeria, 600,000 graduates every year. And a smallest country only picked Seychelles, which has approximately 100,000 people, has approximately 100 graduates every year. And When I come back after this short break, we'll be looking on to what does African Development Bank say in terms of the jobs that are created every year. How many people graduate every year, approximately in Africa, looking onto these numbers that I've shared, and then how many jobs are created, and if the education system now addresses the needs. Do we not get the jobs because the education system does not prepare the market ready graduates, or it is something else? This is Wake Up Africa, broadcasting live from Nairobi, Kenya. We are rewriting Africa's narrative and we're looking onto the education system. Stay tuned. Good morning, Africa. This is Wake Up Africa, the fourth episode. Once again, truly grateful to my producers, Essa and Noreen, for making sure that the program has, from the day go. And luckily, when we began this year in January, it was, the first Saturday was at the break of the new year, and they said, "No, Austin, we are going live on Wake Up Africa. We all want to be part and parcel of rewriting the Africa's narrative." So, really, thanks to my producers, Esa and Lorraine. But I would also like to once again remain totally grateful to Aminata of Tanzania, Patricia from Kenya, Alan Subi from Uganda, Remy from Rwanda, Elliot from Burundi. Bonjour, Monsieur Elliot. Ça va? Collins from South Africa, Talks from Nigeria, and Anna from the Republic of South Sudan for being there from the beginning of Wake Up Africa today, being ready and able to share your views, your comment, and what's happening in your respective countries. Truly, thank you. But I'm also very grateful to all of you following Wake Up Africa from the day go. Allow me at this point in time to really thank my mother. She has never missed a single episode. Mom, thank you so much. Wherever you are, truly thanks. And, she keeps bringing different topics. Whenever she sees points of interest, she's like, Austin, you want to look at this? If this could really be a topic for Wake Up Africa, and truly, the topics that really trigger minds, trigger thinking, and when it comes to rewriting Africa's narrative, these are very fantastic topics. But again, to you, all my viewers. If you also have different topics, bring them on because, rewriting Africa's narrative is from all the 54 African countries. I always say if there was no Berlin Conference back in 1884, 1885, we would all be one village, you know. And I'm looking on to the great African leaders that ever existed, the likes of Mwalimu Nyerere, the likes of Nelson Mandela. But here in particular, I would really like to commend Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, who was even on his last minute attempting to really drive a point home that Africa really needs to come as one. The Organization of African Unity then and the African Union today, that the regional blocks, the EAC, the SADC, really are designed to bring Africa as one. It's a decision that we really have to embrace. But embracing this should not be theoretical. It should be, it should be a reality into everyday's life. It is. I was reading something from the internet the other day that Kenya, and here I would really wish to commend President William Ruto of the Republic of Kenya that has permitted or has allowed 52 out of 54 African countries to freely come in and out of Kenya. And as I came into Kenya yesterday, of course, Tanzania has had this for the longest time. You do not need to pay for visa. Yesterday, surprisingly, I was not even asked, how long are you going to be in Kenya for? I got used to this statement several times when I came to Kenya. But yesterday, grabbed my passport, look at the camera, for fingerprints, stamped my passport, and here I am, broadcasting Wake Up Africa Live. So this should really be across African continent. I remember 2 years ago when I visited Nigeria, I had to go to the embassy and get a visa and then fly, and a lot of questions at the airport. I think it's high time that we should really look onto the African continent as one. One means we should easily be able to travel from one country to the other. I do not know when we're also going to have the skills transfer across African countries. It shouldn't be like you acquire a work permit, which is very expensive to work in Africa, any of the African countries, if you're coming from Africa. I'm also commending Rwanda, where I was for some work mission 2 days ago. I'd gone to do some work, and poop in, poop out, and it went pretty well. And I kind of feel like this should be it. Consultancy should be open to everyone because recently when we discussed the mindset of abundancy, we looked onto how um, we have so many resources in Africa. And the more we appreciate that we have so many resources in Africa, the more we grow as a continent. So when I'm able to go and share my skills in Rwanda, when I'm able to go and share my skills in Uganda, for instance, all the way from Tanzania, and they're able to come and do the same, we are growing as the continent, you know we are growing as the continent. I was there, I paid for the hotel, I went out seeing things, I went bought stuff, including a fantastic book that I bought for a friend, etc., etc. This is how we grow as a country. But when you have a closed economy, you're not able to grow. Even if you say, no, this is only us, this is only for us. Everything that is done here should give the priority to the people from this country. I'm not sure. And we looked onto, I think one of the comments, if I remember very well, from one of the followers, I think it was, I can't remember the name, but said, looking onto the comparative advantage, competitive advantage, this is how we should be looking onto our continent. I will shortly be going onto the comments that are coming through our social media platforms as we are discussing, does the education system in Africa address the current needs of the market? And once again, do not really get tired because Mwalimu Nyerere really in the forefront of the liberation of Africa was looking onto the education, not only for Tanzania, but across Africa. And as I said, If we did not have the Berlin Conference back in 1884, 1885, where Africa now was split into little parts we call boundaries, and allocated to different countries outside Africa as colonial territories. We would all be a small village, would all have had our kings and queens in Africa, doing exchange of goods, barter trade, as we had before the colonial era. Now, it says, and the education provided must encourage the development in each citizen, the ability to learn from what others do and reject or adapt. Reject what does not address the needs, adapt what could really be put into this African soil, Mama Africa, and address own needs. But then he also said the education system is not the way of escaping poverty. As we all agree, most African countries share more or less similar sentiments. When we rise, we rise. When we fall. So the education system is not the way of escaping poverty. It is the way of fighting it. This is what Mwalimu said. And as most of African countries, especially sub-Saharan African countries, struggle with poverty, our education system should really be the way, should really provide solutions to or means tools that we are able to fight poverty. As we are broadcasting live from Nairobi, Kenya, I'm seeing Patricia Dede has joined and she will be ready now to share the fact that Kenya has 50,000 people graduating every year. How many jobs are created in Kenya? And in that aspect, does the education system now address the needs of the job market? We shall be hearing shortly from Patricia Dede, all the way from Kenya. Now, I said I would give some information from the African Development Bank. So, African Development Bank says about 10 to 12 million, about 10 to 12 million young Africans enter the labor market each year. About 10 to 12 million people, million young Africans enter the labor market each year, where only, I would like to emphasize on the word only, 3 million formal jobs are available. What does that mean? Only one third or one fourth of the young Africans who enter the job market are able to access the jobs. I remember an incident where I witnessed there were a couple of jobs, there were like 30, 40 jobs that were advertised, and we had more than 60,000 applicants for that job, those jobs. And I know I've seen this in many other countries across Africa that, and this is the information by the African Development Bank, that we have 10 to 12 million young Africans. And as you may recall, we have more than 1.3 billion uh, people in Africa. Now we have 10 to 12 million young Africans that enter the labor market each year, but we only have 3 million formal jobs available. Okay, this is what Africa really needs to look onto, really needs to ponder onto when we have so many people entering the job market, and we have yet a third to a fourth of jobs spaces that are available. What do we do? How do we prepare? How do we prepare the young Africans onto the job market? This is Wake Up Africa, and we are broadcasting live from Kenya. Stay back, and when we come back, I already have Valentine, I already have Emma and Abby ready to share their comments as they have posted onto our social media, and we'll go back onto with their comments. Stay tuned. This is Wake Up Africa, rewriting Africa's narrative. We'll be back in a few seconds. Rise and shine. Wake up, Africa. This is the fourth episode, and today, surprise, surprise, not surprise really, because we did mention this from last week. We are looking onto the education system in Africa. This is the fourth episode, 1 month of live broadcast, and honored truly to be broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. It's beautiful. The weather is fine. Looking outside the window from my view, it's beautiful, all tall buildings, but yes, it's beautiful Kenya. Does the education system in Africa address the need of the market? Looking onto the statistics that has been given by the African Development Bank, that we have approximately 10 to million young Africans that enter the labor market each year, where only 3 million formal jobs are available, where only 3 million formal jobs are available to meet 10 to 12 million young Africans that enter the labor market. I have Patricia Dede from Nairobi, Kenya. Good morning, Patricia, and welcome to Wake Up Africa.
Good morning, Austin. Welcome to Nairobi. Karibu sana.
Asante Sana, it's truly great to be in Nairobi, Kenya, Patricia, and I'm hoping before I leave, I will get to see you if your time allows. I was in Rwanda and I spoke to my brother from Rwanda, Rennie. He was out of town. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet, but we'll try. You know, when we speak of Wake Up Africa, we want to bring Africa together to rewrite the narratives. When I visit these countries, we co-host. You know, you should have been here or somewhere. I should have been where you are to do Wake Up Africa. But again, not to take much of your time, Patricia, we are looking onto the education system in Africa and whether the education system in Africa truly prepares the younger or the graduates to go onto the job market. What is your take, considering the statistic that I read recently that we have in Kenya more than or close to approximately 50,000 people, young people that graduate every year? What is your take?
Thank you, Austin. I think you
Aina sidawasikii. Oh, yeah. No.
Please
sorry.
proceed.
Yes, thank you for your question. I think this comes at a time when we are at a crossroads, specifically in Kenya, when we have just turned into a new what we call competency-based curriculum. We are now on the CBC, it's called competency-based curriculum, which is a flexible education framework in Kenya that focuses on practical learning and basically skills development that replaced the what we used to call 844 system uh, in 2000 and I think 2019. So I think it is a good run of 5 years on this new system. And it turned around, it came in right at the onset, right at the start of COVID. And so as we were grappling with trying to do things virtually, um, kids attend school virtually for those who could, and so on. And with that, it was a new system altogether. So this system adopts the two-year, it's a 2-6-6-3 approach, where students will spend 2 years in secondary school, and those who proceed to university will spend 3 years in that institution. And under CBC, learners also, you have pre-primary, 6 years in primary, grade 1 to 6, 3 years in junior school, grade 7, 8, and 9, then 3 years in senior secondary, grade 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's a new system. And for those of us who were from the old school kind of system, to be honest, it kind of confuses us as well. Now, to your question, does the education system prepare students for the job market? And even before this change to the CBC, you realize that we have each year we have so many students out there looking for jobs. And I don't know whether it's an African mentality where we believe in employment, so to speak. I put on a tie, go to an office, sit on there 8 to 5, and I have that fulfillment that I am employed and I have a job, as opposed to um, tapping onto your talent, building it, growing it, finding something to do, joining the dots, looking at the market, the needs alongside your talent, and then offering a solution. So that thinking is what I believe the competency-based curriculum is trying to achieve. And it also says silently that it is okay for you to have gotten to university for whatever coursework. And it is okay for you to get out there and start up a business and employ other people. It is okay for you to just be a chef and start your own small kibanda somewhere and grow it into a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, whatever it is. And it is okay for you to use the gift that God has given you. And if you're an artist, if you're good with your hands, if school then helps you think, it helps you make decisions, it makes you sharpen your business acumen and not necessarily hacking on, cramming, passing exams for the sake of it, having a certificate and going out there and looking for a job. Going to the internet, you're looking for a managerial job, you're looking for middle level, and so on and so forth. So I think that shift, that mindset is intentional, and the CBC has been put in to help students, to help parents, to also support their children in this. And that's why you'll find in the younger years, you'll be asked as parents, okay, tomorrow come with beads, flour, and this, we are going to be cooking this in class. Tomorrow come with wood and this, we'll be making artifacts out of wood or something. And tomorrow come with, reed and strings and stuff like that to also make something else. So more and more, there's a lot of practicality, there's a lot of handiwork going on in this competency-based curriculum. And truly, I think it has the intention, and I don't know, the outcomes may not be realized today or tomorrow. I think in the next maybe 15, 20 years is when we will see the first cohorts getting out of school with this competency-based curriculum framework mindset out there in the market, making a difference and saying, we have our paperwork, yes, but I am good with my hands. I do 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, myself, I am a creative. I draw, I paint, I do graphics a lot, and traditionally, even before desktop publishing came about, where the type you could just take pencil, a pen, do calligraphy, draw you, and do a quick sketch. So it helps you to accept your talent, nurture it, and say, I'm going to use this to get into the job market, to address the challenges and the gaps within the market. And so this education is helping me just to think and to also know how to keep record of accounts. So if I'm having my own business, then I know this is the in, this is the out, these are the balances. Am I making a loss or not? If it's anything to do with science, it's about just to help you know, medically, this is what's going on with me. So you're able to turn around things and you're able to know what's happening. But you are the driver, you are the person on the driver's seat of your life. You have used what God has given you. You have tapped into talent and used education to grow it so that you can get out there. And so what am I saying? We will not all use the CBC, ideally, the competency-based curriculum, this flexible education framework. There are some who will be employed, and there are some who will be entrepreneurs and start their own business. And so it's going to be a mix. What it's trying to avoid is everyone lumping into looking for employment, running from door to door. I want to sit in an office, um, you know, answer to somebody 8 to 5 and go away. That's the traditional way of doing things. And also looking at where we're coming from, our colonial masters really did a good job in shaping us this way. Now we are moving out of that. And as we move out of that, within the next 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to have a hybrid. So we're not saying that everybody's going to move to the outcomes of the CBC. We will have those who employ, and we will have those who are doing the competency-based curriculum. So that is the example I would give for us back here in Kenya, and what that new competency-based curriculum intends. It has come in with a lot of mixed emotions, I must say, because one, it's a new thing, and not everybody, new things are very, people are skeptical of new things, let me say. And so there are concerns such as there are too many breaks, there are too many terms. The traditional terms we had were 3, where you could close school in December and then jump on into school in January. April, you close school. August, you also close school, and December. But you find that parents, we don't even know when kids are going to close school. And when you thought you had paid school fees, they have closed school and they want to open again. And then the books are out of this world, mountains and mountains of books. So those are the kind of concerns, parents have. And also just wondering, how will this pan out? Did we make a right decision? Are they using our children as guinea pigs? Will it stand the test of time? Is it just a litmus test? So genuinely, those are the questions. But when you look at it, it has competencies. And I'll just outline. So when you talk about competency-based, it is competency helping you on communication and collaboration. For example, when you're out there, how are you able to join the dots socially to make it beneficial to you as a person? It also helps with critical thinking and problem solving, imagination and creativity. And also at the heart of it is the big role of citizenship, right? As you do all this, the CBC teaches them how to uphold this and citizenship right at the core of it. And then learning to learn, so that even as you go by, you're not just a know-it-all. It is okay to learn from others and create a good mix for you to thrive in whatever environment you are. And being self-efficient. But most importantly, also covered in all this, the importance of digital literacy, because right now we are on digital platforms almost everywhere. There's AI, there are new things you're learning every day, there are new frameworks, there are new apps. How do you build a business model? How do you build an app, as an entrepreneur, and putting together your creativity? How can I build an app to solve something, possibly just have a Wake Up Africa app? And where, for example, you'll have all of us in here over time connect to some kind of service, or if we want to look at something, or if we form a certain conglomerate within Wake Up Africa, is it an app that Austin is going to create that is going to help us, join the dots as we compartmentalize Wake Up Africa and other things? So that is just an outline of what the competency-based curriculum, the new competency-based curriculum is all about. And I think it's making a new way of thinking. But yes, there's a big shift, and there's a a big number, a big chunk of students out there who are jobless, and people don't know what to do, and frustrations come about. And with that, over time, they decided to introduce the CBC so that it can ease off this big chunk of people who come out of school with degrees, certificates, and diplomas and just don't know what to do with themselves because the jobs are not enough. They can't find them. But it helps them think to say, look, it is okay. Let us do the CBC. Let me reap from the CBC and let it help me. Let me do it for myself. I submit.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patricia. Um, Wake Up Africa broadcasting today from Kenya. I kind of felt like you're right next here broadcasting with me as you're pouring your thoughts and mind onto it. Surprisingly, Patricia, and you, as you might also be aware, that also Tanzania is launching this end of January, on the 31st to be very precise. Our president will be launching the CBC in Tanzania, looking onto again the competency-based educational curriculum, looking onto skills enhancement. But my question back to you, as I am about to really let you go, being a Saturday morning, and I know you have a number of errands to run, we still have the employment system that says a degree and not a diploma. That requires more of submission into, what you've acquired in the university vis-a-vis what you can acquire, and what allow me to use a skills-based diploma at some tertiary education and some college, etc. What is your take on that? What should Africa do as we're looking onto changing the narrative? Is it high time now, in your opinion, that we should really consider more diploma and postgraduate diploma than degrees that are theoretical based?
Yes, for sure. And that is the reason why we have um, technical technical institutes, so to call them, which are not necessarily universities, but then you study for a while and you specialize in something, and you can also have that certificate, degree, sorry, diploma. And as I said, one size doesn't fit all. One size doesn't fit all. And so we cannot all rush to universities to get our degrees and whatever it may be. And then again, remember, is our universities sufficient for the numbers that are there? No, they're not. And so you realize that when these students leave primary school and are now gearing up to get into the university, depending on their grades, there are those who will be sharp A students, uh, B students, and they'll get into the universities direct, depending on what they had said they would like to do. And then you'll have the middle, who may not have made it for university. And we are saying, well, you are competent, you are a good student, but you also deserve a second chance. You also deserve to channel your thinking, your efforts somewhere. And that is why we are saying sometimes that certificate and diploma is like a bridging, it's like a bridge to the degree. And you find that somebody said that, in this life, the C students, the students who scored C's in high school getting to the university, they are the ones with the sharpest business acumen. They'll get there, they're street smart, they'll do stuff, they'll turn around things, and then they'll end up employing the A students and the B students. And so that is just a street talk. I cannot back it up, unfortunately, but it's just an example of,
Mm-hmm.
What people could be saying once in a while. And yes, so the certificates and the diplomas, I think they're important. And I think they also open doors to those who may not necessarily have made it for a degree course in medicine, in architecture, engineering, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
But I think it's important to have a good mix, and this mix then enables us have a rich bank of who has done what, who could do what, and where are we moving from. So as I mentioned, it has been this is going to be the 6th year of the CBC education framework here, and we are yet to see the fruits of it. But even then,
Mhm.
at home as parents, we are seeing the fruits of it with our children as young as they are, able to make pancakes in the morning. They're able to sew on their buttons. They're able to think differently. They're able to sing and learn how to, it's okay to be a performing artist. But back then, our parents tell them, I want to be a performing artist. And before you even finish your sentence, I'm sure they'd throw you out of the room.
You
So
have
it's
received a slap.
yeah, so it's a shift in the thinking, and it is allowing, you know, um, students to use their creativity and explore and find themselves. So yeah, it would be okay to have the certificate and the diplomas because they also serve a purpose. We cannot all be having degrees, and for a good
Absolutely.
reason.
Absolutely. So, Patricia, thank you very much. I am going to ask you my very final question today. And this is, do you think, in your own personal opinion, Patricia, the CBC will address the jobs for the future? Do you think the CBC will address the jobs for the future?
I think if handled well, um, every system, everything has teething issues. I always say a newborn cannot be born with teeth to bite immediately. And if you give birth to a child with teeth, then there's a problem. You possibly leave her or leave him in hospital because it has never been seen. And in the same breath, um, we could be having teething problems in terms of adaptation, in terms of just streamlining, finding the right curricular material, for example, technically, even just training the teachers. Because remember, teachers did not exist who have been trained on CBC. They have to be churned from somewhere. So
Mhm.
as teachers are being trained to have skills of teaching this CBC, children are also on the litmus test. And so you'll have many bottlenecks along the way. You'll have many hiccups along the way. But that is the whole beauty of learning and saying, okay, this does not work properly. And so therefore, we then move to this. But I believe that in the long run, it is going to be something beneficial to all of us. And it is going to churn out a good population of students, of young adults who are self-reliant, who develop communication skills, who develop critical thinking, armed with digital competency to solve solutions. And the solutions we are expecting now are not the solutions that we had, say, 5, 10 years back. The narrative has changed. Landscapes have changed on many fronts. And we have to embrace that change. And how do you embrace that change? By also looking at, things such as competency-based curriculum to actually nourish the thinking and also make sure that we are up to date. And when you talk about Tanzania, also just, embracing this CBC, I believe it has been well thought of, it's a well thought out thing. They have probably seen the benefits, and it's going to be easier for you in Tanzania It might be easy for another country, embracing it. Why? Because they're seeing the benefit of it in Kenya 5 years later. And the beauty with those who are embracing it after the guinea pigs is that they will not wait to fall into the pits that, those who came before them fell into, but they learn from those experiences. So it makes, in Africa, for those who are now embracing it, it makes things easier because you're learning from experience, you're learning from your brothers and sisters in other countries. Their systems could have been different, but not too different. But there are certain elements that, would work out. So yes, I believe it is going to work out, but it can only work out not by wishful thinking. It can only work out by good governance, um, the proper leadership. Yeah, because then again, there's a lot of wastage that goes about. With new things come a lot of wastage. Financial elements that are brought about and put into these projects and these systems can easily be misused, can easily be mishandled. People can take advantage of it, and what it was purposed for may not come into light. So it will work. I believe it will work, but it has to be handled very carefully, proper governance, proper financial management, and also a citizenry that believes that this is a good thing for us, and so keeps the leadership in check. What about this, and how will this work out? And being honest, having a one-on-one, honest, candid talk, like, this is not working for us. How about doing it this way? And also for the leadership to have honest conversation with the citizenry, saying, look, this is what we are doing, this is what we are trying, and therefore this is the projection that we have. Communication, keeping them updated on the changes within that system, not waiting for things to fall and say, oh, okay, oops, the ball dropped. Just keeping a constant reminder, like any new thing deserves. So it would work, but that would be my caveat in terms of the things that we need to look out for, even in our race to ensuring that we get to the finish line with good results.
Patricia, thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution, all the way from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. So, Patricia, Africa Heads of States is on next week in Tanzania, 27th and 28th, where we're looking on to the heads of states will also be signing an MOU to commit to providing energy by 2030 to 3 million Africans. What is happening in Kenya?
Kenya, we have a lot of with the new regime, we have a lot of promises that were made, like any other regime would naturally. But in that regard, we have um, a proposal on having an energy grid that says power to the people, power for everyone. And they are still working on that, I guess, because it's been 2 years since the new regime came to power. And there are efforts. I know there are efforts. We see the efforts every time of enhancing the national grid, just ensuring that everyone, even in the villages, are able to tap into electricity. But of course, we have the challenges. For example, the Kenya Power and Lighting is a monopoly. There's no competition for it so far. And I'm very skeptical with monopolies because monopolies usually end up, there's a lot of laxity because there's no competition and there's no one who is really, putting you on check. So I hope that a solution would come about so that they're able to be put squarely in their place and they're able to run as fast. But it's not too bad though. It's not too bad. And we believe that, given the support, I hope I hope the donor funding would still step in and support projects and proposals that are given out. So that's the status so far. And we are on a wait and see. But you see, again, with a 5-year term, you cannot wait and see for too long. So with those promises put in place and all the structures, at least they're not on ground zero, I must say, give them credit. They're not on ground zero. Something is definitely being done. We are hoping to see and we're hoping to see what fruits this new framework, this energy framework is able to yield.
Thank you so much, Patricia. And what would your parting remark be?
My parting remark would be Africa, we have been guinea pigs of many ideologies over the years. Our forefathers, pre-colonial, just after a colonial era for in different parts of Africa. Of course, we started with the first Ghana having in their independence earlier, way earlier. But when you look at the map, you find that many of us were on 1960s, 62, 63, 64, thereabout on average.
Mhm.
And with that, we have come a long way. And so everything boils down to leadership and everything boils down to governance. So I hope and pray that even as we grapple with putting our feet together and our heads up straight and embracing sobriety, may new ideologies such as Wake Up Africa, and other new things that bring sense to us lead us to where we ought to be. But I could talk about very many dimensions, but I could say the most important, ideally, is the kind of leadership. Because for as long as we are in leadership that does not embrace these ideologies, we will be going round and round and round in circles for years on. And so it is upon us who are on the sidelines to stand up and say, this is what we need, and this is what we need to do. And not just by saying it, by showing it, by forming collaborations, by being on the forefront of looking at ideologies and things and trying to make them work. Those little things could look very small, drops in the ocean, but trust you me, they make a difference. And if you want a mental shift and change, it starts with those little things that would now end up being perceived differently.
Patricia, thank you once again very much for your invaluable contribution. Patricia, this is our fourth episode. It's been 1 month. We are celebrating 1 month anniversary, and I'm grateful for your contribution for the past 4 months. And together, we are rewriting Africa's narrative. Thank you always for your contribution, comments, and I look forward to the next episode with you, where, Patricia, we are going to really look now onto these micro, small, and medium enterprises, the entrepreneurs that you said that we're anticipating to come out of the CBC. How do we access? The question, the topic for next week will be now the access to capital loans from our monetary financial institutions. Is it friendly or unfriendly to really support the growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises? Up until next week, Patricia, thank you very much, and I wish you a wonderful time. I hope during my stay a couple of hours before I go back to Tanzania, if we'll be able to meet. If not, then we'll always meet through Wake Up Africa or any other time. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you. We are back in 5 seconds, and this is Wake Up Africa, rewriting Africa's narrative. We're looking onto the education system, and when we come back, I have Alan Subi from Uganda, I have Rennie from Rwanda, and I also have one more person onto uh, joining us as well, and there we will all come in together to share our thoughts onto the education system. This is Wake Up Africa, and let us rewrite Africa's narrative. We will be back. My dear viewer, Wake Up Africa is celebrating the fourth week of live broadcasting, and I'm honored today to be in Nairobi, Kenya. We've just had a contribution from Patricia Ndede of Nairobi, Kenya, who spoke highly about the anticipated impact of the curriculum-based competency based curriculum that Kenya has just launched. The same one will be launched in Tanzania. We've already started using it, but we are coming official as of the end of this month. And a lot she said, she said, she finished by saying, really, leadership is to embrace these changes that we really want to see in Africa. But she also spoke about how the skills based education, the CBC, will address a lot of self-employment vis-a-vis those of us who still believe that jobs should be created by our government. But again, we are looking onto the number of graduates. According to African Development Bank, we have 30, we have quite an astonishing statistics, whereby we have 10 to 12 million young Africans that enter the labor market every day. Yet still, we have only 3 million formal jobs that are created. But I now have my very own Remy from Rwanda and Alan Subi from Uganda. But I'm also delighted that we'll be joined by Modupe all the way from Nigeria. We'll give my dear participants a room, especially Modupe, to reintroduce himself and take it on the topic that we have for today. Good morning, and this is Wake Up Africa, my regional team. Alan Subi, Remy, and Modupe, good morning from Uganda, Nigeria, and Rwanda.
Morning,
Good
Austin.
morning,
How are
Austin.
you?
Austin.
I am very fine, thank you. We are celebrating 1 month of Wake Up Africa, and I remain truly grateful for your valuable contribution always. Alan, to begin with you, do you think, in your opinion, the education system that we have in Africa, across Africa as we share it all across, really and truly addresses the needs for the markets today?
Austin, I'm happy to be back for another Saturday and to be celebrating the 1 month anniversary with you. Thank you so much for introducing this space. We are touching very topical issues around our continent. Again, this is a sad issue, and you've just shared some sad statistics, really. Last Saturday, when we were talking about when you were asking me about what's happening in Kampala, I told you that it was graduation week. So we were having graduation parties all over the place. It was a jovial mood, really. But then what comes after the graduation parties is, are these people getting employed? Are they starting their own businesses, or are they going to hit the streets with so many copies of their CVs, walking from office to office? And indeed, because the media coverage was heavy around graduations, there's something that New Vision captured for all PhD graduates. I won't read her name, but it's something that was run. She's sharing her academic experience, where she's been, what she's been studying, and whatnot. And then the last sentence with her photo and name and years and whatnot, the last statement is, "I'm currently unemployed." This is PhD holder in mathematics, currently unemployed.
Wow.
So you can imagine, this is just one example, and it's a story running in the papers because they were profiling all PhD holders that have graduated this year. So to answer your question, is our education system responding to the urgent needs of our population? Maybe not. Maybe not, because the urgent needs of our population are, one, first of all, the basic needs. How do we get ourselves these basic needs? We need to make money. We need to be economic powerhouses. That's the goal, really. But we can't do that. And right now, our economies are shaken by Trump swearing in, because the day he swore in, he's signing he's signing all these papers that are withholding funding from us, and we are shaken. We don't know what's happening next. And why is that? It's because we cannot sustain our economies. Our people are unemployed. And the root cause of this is our education system. Now, in Uganda, the government is trying, and it's been more than 15 years now. We've had universal primary education that has also been extended to secondary education. Why is this being done? It's being done to give an opportunity to the masses to be educated, and with the appreciation that the foundation of education is key. So we started with UPE, and now there is also secondary education. So we have achieved at that level, but then if you see the products out of the universal primary education, out of the universal secondary education, they still don't fit into the needs of the economy. Why? The standard has gone really low, because we have to, in Uganda, it's called bonabasome, like let all of them be educated. So what that means is, if you, a middle income earner, take your children to a UPE school, the standard is going to be so low, because they have to be at the level of everyone else, schools countrywide. So then that has affected the output. So I think that's going to be the next level for the government to really work on upping the standard, because right now we appreciate the fact that everyone is going to school, but what are they getting? Teachers are striking every day. They're not getting paid, So those are the things that we need to work around to get there. But I do appreciate, and I want to be on record saying that the Ugandan government is doing something. They're doing something about it. So it's the next level that we're looking forward to.
You truly are putting the perspective on record, Alan, and thank you so much for your contribution. Truly, universal health, primary education, universal health coverage, universal primary education. Tanzania has also adopted the same. I can't really say if it's been 5 years or 10 years, but we're also doing the same. My question back to you, after we've had comments from Modupe and Remy shortly, will be when we bring everybody into the education system, that means we are still increasing the number of graduates at their jobs. But let's hear from Modupe all the way from Nigeria. Modupe, welcome to Wake Up Africa as we are rewriting Africa's narrative. First, we would appreciate to get to know you better, all the way from Nigeria, and then tell us, what is your take? Do you think, in your opinion, the education system in Africa truly addresses the needs of the market today and into the future? Modupe, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Austin, for bringing me on this program. My name is Adeto Kumbo Modupe, but it would also be welcome if you just simply refer to me as Tokes Modupe. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm a communication expert. And I'm, a public commentator. Speaking on the subject of whether or not the education system in Africa meets the need of the people. Well, I think it's a general thing across Africa that, the education system needs to be reviewed. It needs to be recalibrated to meet the need of the 21st century. I'll give you an example. I think the focus on certification, has defeated the purpose of education. You have a lot of graduates that are not employable. So while we talk about curriculum, we talk about the entire system, we should also talk about employability. Those that have been certified as graduates, are they employable? Many times I've been on interview panels, and you'll be ashamed the quality of products that are coming out of our systems, be it university or or polytechnics, because our education system is more focused, on what I call Western orientation rather than looking at our own needs. For example, in Nigeria, as part of the effort of government to um, ensure that education makes meaning, to the people, history has just been reintroduced into Nigerian secondary schools. Can you imagine that for many years, for some reason, some people somewhere took off history from, subjects, that is a huge disservice, to the people, to their culture, to their history. That where our children, you see an average graduate who doesn't even know what happened 20 years ago or 30 years, before. So these are some of the issue. It's about time that we focused on skills acquisition, where balance with intellectual, orientation. We can't just focus on shutting out degrees that are completely useless on the street. We have to look at what we need. We have to look at what are the areas that we can build competitive advantage. This is a digital era, for example. How do we ensure that our people, not just acquire the skills, but are able to balance it with their understanding of how the global environment works? So it is important that the curriculum not just be designed to shut out degrees, but those degrees must truly, those who acquire them must be able to defend them. That brings me to the issue of the system, sanitization of the system, the corruption in our education system. When somebody comes out with a degree, how do you, for example, I think, was it Patricia or the last person that spoke about someone having a PhD and not having a job? Have we interrogated if that PhD is properly and truly worthy of it, of that certificate? And if it is, then that person shouldn't have problem getting a job. That person shouldn't have problem getting a job. But I tell you, why is the labor market you have a large people in the labor market. You also have a large gap, in the business sector. Businesses want to employ, but where are the competencies?
Mhm.
So this is a major challenge. So employability is important. Are those graduates being shown out employable? Is a big question.
Absolutely. And this is why Wake Up Africa really wants to pin down and rewrite the narrative. And I really like the fact that you've mentioned someone somewhere. I was talking to someone recently and I was like, most decisions that are made and affect and impact our economies are made by one person who is probably the most vocal person in a boardroom and says, let us remove history in the curriculum and everyone has nothing to say and history is taken off. So thank you so much, Mr. Talks, and delighted you could make time for Wake Up Africa this week. Over to you, Remy, all the way from Rwanda. Mr. Talks, I'm going to come back to you with my follow-up question. But Talks from Rwanda, Mr. Remy from Rwanda, tell us, the education system in Rwanda, in Africa. Your thoughts? Do you think we've gotten to a point, having borrowed from what Patricia said, Alan Subi from Uganda said, Mr. Talks from Nigeria said, do you think our education system in Africa is truly addressing the needs of the market? And if yes, how? And if not, what ought to be done? Remy, Rwanda.
Thank you so much, Austin, and thanks for everyone's contribution. I think based on what everyone have been discussing and raising my points, and my points I want to frame them in a way of yes and no, because not African countries are all doing the same, and not all of us are performing well or not performing well. It depends on which lens are you using to look at it, and I think it's a job for all of us as the citizens of African countries and to also the leaders of our countries to look at this issue and dig deeper and understand what is the impact of what we are doing today to tomorrow Africa. So my first point will be about the career paths that people are following. Things have changed because in the early 2000s, we didn't have these careers of social media manager. We didn't have these jobs of AI analyst, these consultant type of jobs. They were not there. You were born knowing that you are going to be a teacher, you are going to be a doctor, you are going to be a politician, you are going to be a lawyer. That's it, or an engineer. But not these kind of jobs that are arising. So I think that we need to recalibrate our education system to adapt to the new emerging market. Let's say Uganda, you have the best university in East Africa, I think, Makerere University. But if you go to Makerere now, can we find the education adapted to the current programs that we have today? Can we find a master's degree in artificial intelligence, in data analysis, those kind of things? If we go to Rwanda, we come back to Rwanda, can we really find these kind of studies in what we are teaching young generation today? Because that's what we need for now. That's what the market requires. So if you are saying we need to address the need of the market right now, we need to make sure that we know what the market needs right now. And to be honest, what the market needs right now is technology. So if your education system is not embracing technology, you are left behind. And I can simply say it will be a no on that question if the education system is addressing that point. My second one is the quality of education as well. You might say people are getting educated and they are graduating, but with what knowledge, with what skills? At the end of the day, the society we are in now, it doesn't matter if you have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a doctor in that particular case. What is needed? Do you know your stuff? Can you deliver what the market requires? Yes. And then you can go ahead, because I have friends also who are employed and they have never been to universities and they are doing extremely well because they got the jobs and they are putting in the work and it is paying off. A lot of things I think I have been, I don't know if it's my mindset or what, but I think that we always blame others, uh, especially governments and other public institutions, on not delivering on their end. Yes, absolutely. Most of them, sometimes they don't deliver on what they promise the citizens. But again, if we look at the root cause, it's about also the quality of education that is in the country. If you elect someone in a public office and already they didn't get the qualified education, they are not trained to be good leaders. So what are you expecting to get in return? You will get bad results. It also applies in businesses, in our society as well. If you get good quality education, within the society. Everyone is going to be a winner, and we are going to have an improved Africa with like sharp minds, and now we'll be able to question our governments, our public institution with what we really need, and they will understand us because they know we know what we are talking about. And the third one, I know that I think it was introduced back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, the African Free Trade Area, Continental Free Trade Area. When that was introduced, maybe I don't know how people have taken it, but it's not only about exchanging manufactured goods, exchanging medical products, also exchanging education. Everyone, I think we must open our markets to the extent where, if I'm in Rwanda, and I'm maybe an IT engineer, if I don't find the right job that I want, I must be able to walk to Uganda and say, okay, I see that your farm needs these kind of skills and I have them. Why don't you employ me? And you show your skills and you get employed right away. No need to pay for work permits and applying for visas. If that's the case, now we will be solving the issue of saying that we have many unemployed people which are educated. Because now, if you say that it's someone who has PhD in mathematics, in Rwanda, I don't know many of that people, and we have universities that requires them. Why not only focus on your country, but export your skills to other countries that might need them? I'm not talking about Rwanda only. There are many countries in Africa, 54 countries. Those are a lot. That is a big market. What we need is also to look within our neighbors. What we don't have in Rwanda, it might be there in Kenya, it might be there in Tanzania. What we need is to work together, but also to step out there and expose ourselves. That's my points today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Remy, and you've brought a very pertinent issue, and I'm happy that you've mentioned Makerere, and we have Alan Subi from Uganda. If the education system now is also preparing the future, the generations for the future jobs, and you've specifically mentioned the technology. Alan Subi, over to you. I had quoted early on Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, who said the education was service to the nation, where he said that the education system inherited from colonialists was not designed to prepare the young people for the services of their own country. My final question to the of the round now, starting with you, Alan Subi. What then should African governments do so that we are able to prepare the education, we are able to adapt the education system that can prepare the graduates for the future jobs? Alan Subi, you can start by reacting to Makerere if they have a master's degree in AI. Karibu.
Yeah, I think I need to thank you, gentlemen, for that recognition. Makerere has been an education powerhouse for a while now, and we are proud of the number of foreigners that we receive every year to attain an education. So while it is still a recognized top university in Africa and the world, churning out so many graduates every year, I also feel like there's a problem with their placement thereafter because because of systems that will have people keeping their jobs up to the time of their death at 70, 75. So, Makerere is churning out brilliant minds every year, but they'll remain on the streets unemployed because there are people who are holding on to their positions for so long. Okay, I want to speak for Uganda. Uganda has people in government ministries and other government offices that will not retire. Sometimes they even retire and come back. So, that's part of the problem. So while we are going to discuss the system and whatnot, we know that Makerere, for example, is producing ready people to work. You know, we have a labor force ready to work being produced every year, but the opportunities are not there because there are many government offices that are still holding on to the old folks. Yeah. So, by the way, gentlemen, I'll have you know that right now, case in point, Makerere, we have new programs, we have additions, there are adjustments to the curriculum all the time. I'll give an example that when I did my bachelor's, it was called mass communication. And right now there's a distinction between journalism, broadcast, and print. Those are two different programs, plus communication, where there's the public relations, there's digital marketing, you know, so someone can get to specialize early. But even then, they'll get out and struggle to get employment. However, I've also seen, because this is our field, I've also seen that there's a new cluster of people that are committing, that are specializing in, let's say, influencer marketing, and that's their niche. They're specializing in photography and videography and whatnot. So those are professions that were not there anymore, or we were expected as communicators or public relations specialists to do everything. So right now, there are people, very smart young people that have specialized and they're doing well in their niches. So I think we need to appreciate that. Austin, I'm losing my trail of thought. I've forgotten your question.
No, okay. No, so it's fine. So what do we need
I
to
hope.
do? Absolutely. You've tackled my question, and my next will be your what is happening in Uganda and your parting remark. But let's first hear from Mr. Talks, all the way from Nigeria. Talks, with all the challenges that our education system in Africa is facing, what then ought to be done? Over to you, Talks from Nigeria.
Well, thank you, Austin. What needs to be done? I think steps um, have already been taken in Nigeria, for example, to balance institutions that are focused on uh, that are skill, acquisition driven, like polytechnics. There has been discrimination in the past between um, diploma from polytechnics and degree awarding institutions when it comes to the job market. Whereas the polytechnics are there to help, develop students from various skills, that are required in the society. However, when they come out, organizations feel like there is something that is, of less importance in such diplomas compared to degrees. But that is being balanced now. That polytechnics in Nigeria, for example, are now allowed to award degrees, um, you know, in order to create that balance with universities. But having said that, what needs to be done goes much more than that. Like I said earlier, we must begin to look at, not just the curriculum, but what do we do with ensuring the quality, control process of this educational system? Because, I know what I'm talking about. When people who are been certified by institutions who have gone through 4 years of university education cannot defend their certificates, that worries me. That worries me. That is a major, major gap. So quality control is very, very important. What are the contents? I love the idea of, decentralizing certain courses. Like the last speaker spoke about mass communication. The same thing is being done in Nigeria. Right now, you have about 5 or 6, specialized courses from mass communication in Nigeria. Okay, but even then, when student acquires this degree, they are students of computer science who never had computers while, undergoing their studies. How do you graduate from school as a computer scientist and you've never really had a laptop to work with?
Right.
So our degrees are we focus so much on, this the certificate. We focus so much on that qualification rather than the skills. So this is very, very important. And I think something that needs to be embedded in our education system is internship. Perhaps that will help, students, get proper introduction into employment by the time they leave school. I think if it is made compulsory, that every student go through what I call 1 year, internship that is embedded in the educational system, perhaps they will find their niche early before they get out of school, and then, be able to understand the needs of the market. Graduation
Absolutely.
is not enough, because when you come to me, for example, I see people who read chemistry, who read, some funny courses, apply to a communication firm and they want to work. They've never worked in a communication firm before. All right. Now, how do
Yeah.
you begin to work with someone that in the next 6 months does not even have an idea of what you do? So you are going to say, oh, no, this person didn't qualify to get this job, But if that person had been introduced to communication or marketing 6 months ago, a year ago, he would have understood that there are certain basic knowledge required in my field, in my profession, for example. And this cut across different sectors of the economy. Someone that read, mechanical engineering wants to become a banker. How do you reconcile that? So this is very, very important. We need, also
Absolutely.
mentors, and maybe we can also, in America, for example, you have a mentorship system. From university, students, identify people in organizations that can mentor them. So you begin to understand, oh, okay, sometimes you are just fascinated by a particular profession, whereas you do better in another profession. With a mentor, you will get proper advice. You'll be guided, on what entails. Why should you go for, profession A and not profession B? Not just because, oh, someone there is doing very well, you're excited by it, and you also want to be like that person. There is nothing wrong in being inspired, but you must also
Absolutely.
know your your area of, your talent area. You must understand that every individual has got a flair for something, that will make life a lot easier for them if they go that direction. So a lot of our graduates are confused. They just get excited and get carried away, and they want to play to the gallery. So at the end of the day, you see square peg trying to get into a round hole, and that is a major gap. And if we are able to address that, perhaps things will be better.
Thank you very much, Talks from Nigeria. I'm happy and so much delighted that you've not only mentioned the gaps, but you've also mentioned on how to address those gaps. I'm happy that you've mentioned the fact that we value a lot of the qualification rather than the skills that are associated or embedded with that qualification. It's a big, big challenge. But I really like also the aspect of mentorship. You know, people seek mentorship after they've been hired. And I'm happy that you've raised the fact that people, especially who get absorbed onto the employment, get confused. There's so much chaos out there. So thank you so much. The idea of mentorship really has to be embraced from as early as possible. But you also said, I really like the example, the solution you proposed to 1 year of internship. I do not know at what instance the internship should be taken. Is it after they finish advanced level before they join secondary school? I mean, before they join universities, so at least they know what it is that they're going to do at the universities, ready for the job markets. This is again very fantastic contribution. To finish with you, Remy, I would like to borrow what Alan Subi from Uganda had said, the aspect of the retirement age, where she spoke about people just going on even post after 70s, and then they retire and then they come back to jobs, that they continue to limit the job space for younger people. And of course, what Mr. Toss from Nigeria also said about improving the quality control process to ensuring that the graduates really have the quality that is required in the market. What is your take? What should be done?
Thank you, Austin. Uh, Capturing in contribution from everyone, I think where we are getting is pretty clear. Uh, I think we have been focused on the traditional jobs. And what I'm happy to say that what I've realized is politics go with the trend. And if we lead the trend as young people, and our politicians, they are going to follow. For instance, in Rwanda, we have been having a change in how our leaders are being selected. Now, if you look at our ministries, our military, we have very, very young people in those positions. We have ministers who are like 24, 25, up to 30. We have colonels, we have majors who are in that young age. I think how it happened, it's about the strategy that was established, that the jobs that exist is only about public service, and people have been doing their best to excel in other fields as well. And what the government have embraced is, if other sectors are developing and being innovative and creative, how about our public institutions as well? So if let's say for RDB, if our RDB is our Rwanda Development Board, it manages investments, it creates strategies to improve our economy. And if we keep people with 70 years, 60 years in that public institution, which has a lot of impact on how the government is doing, what will happen in the next 5 years? And what happens is, with the trend, now they put new people who are skilled, who maybe went to Ivy Leagues and what, they attract good talents who they can leverage to make the economy better. And I think, let's for instance, Aaron discussed about people who stays long in office in Uganda and they lead to 70s, 80s age. Let's like take a look at other sectors. Let's say hospitality. Do you have a hotel manager who is 80 years old now? Do you have a hotel supervisor, a restaurant supervisor who is 80 years old? There are jobs that will force them out one way or another. And it's matter of looking at, okay, if there is this challenge of people staying long in public offices, how about in private sector? Because believe me, the investors are not going to sit there and say, we'll kill this 70-year-old because we don't want to give jobs to young people. No, they will look at the interest of the company. If that's that is not met, they are in bad business. So we must not only focus on public institution, but we must focus on the economy in general. And if the changes happen in other sectors, the government will follow. Absolutely, they will follow. And just summarizing it in one word, we must embrace diversification in our skills, because there are a lot of things to do out there. It's a matter of not only focusing on the job that we grew up thinking about, on the companies or institution that you grew up thinking that I'm going to work at this institution, and start looking around beyond what your lens were seeing before. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Remy. I was in Rwanda past 2 days offering consultancy services onto a regional body, and you're absolutely right. I'm honored and delighted that Rwanda is one of the countries that really spearheads, diversity as your final summary, skills diversification. We should be able to move from one country to the other to do work. I had the opportunity to visit Nigeria, and Talks was one of my hosts there. Totally honored. I look forward to visiting Nigeria again later on this year. But skills diversification, jobs diversification, looking onto different opportunities across African countries, and we should really be able to. This is Wake Up Africa. Thank you all for watching and following all the contribution from all original partners from Wake Up Africa. Now, we are going on to what is happening across our countries. I would also like to say that next week in Tanzania, on Monday and Tuesday, Tanzania will be hosting the African Heads of State Energy Summit, to which most of your presidents or most of your heads of state have confirmed coming to Tanzania. And we shall see presidents or heads of states committing to ensuring 300 million Africans access to electricity by the year 2030. So, Alan Subi, to begin with you, what is happening in Uganda, to be followed by you, Mr. Talks. Tell us what is happening for the coming days in Nigeria, and we shall close with Remy. And as you do that, as you tell us what is happening, also give us your parting remark. Alan?
Austin, what's happening in Uganda, still in line with the subject we're discussing today, is the primary living examinations results for 2024 have been released this week. And we have seen a change in the best schools. I can't even recognize any school from the top 20. Kampala schools have lagged behind this year. We are yet to establish why, but yeah, that's what's happening. We have so many schools from the outskirts and from other districts that are topping the list this year. And yeah, great topic. I cannot wait for next week's. Let's just keep these conversations happening. Thank you, Austin, for the platform. Gentlemen, have a nice weekend.
Thank you so much, Alan. What is your parting remark?
That was it, Austin. I was wishing you a lovely weekend. And to the rest of
thank you so
Africa,
much.
let's keep these conversations happening. We are heading somewhere. I truly believe so.
Thank you so much. Next week, Alan, we are going to ponder on the access to loans from our monetary financial institutions so that people are able to employ themselves. Are they accessible? Are they easily accessible? And if not, what should we do as Africa so that we continue to provide resources so that people can create more jobs? But once again, thank you so much for your contribution. Over to you, Remy. What is happening in Rwanda, and what would your parting remark be?
All right. What's happening in Rwanda? I'll just point out 2 points. First one, our president is currently in a state visit in Turkey, and I was looking at the news and what should be expected to come from that state visit. I think it's more of a partnership within infrastructure, politics, and also in communication. And Turkey have been playing a major role in our country, especially in infrastructure, buildings, Turkey are the ones who finished Convention Center, are the ones who did Kigali Arena, now Amahoro Stadium, and they have many other ongoing projects. And they have been also providing consulting services and trainings to Rwandan engineers. So I think it will be, it has been a wonderful partnership with Turkey, and it is going to be even better. And focusing inside our country, I must say that there is an ongoing demand of housing, and because our population is growing and we are having a lot of people coming in our country from different um, countries from Africa and outside. And what the government is doing, we have now realized that if they don't control or put limits on what people are doing with their real estate properties, it might be a challenge in the next coming 5 to 10 years to really have affordable housing and to really have like structured ways of living. So now what have been established is all the land in Rwanda, we have master plan of what should be done in that specific regions. And if you are constructing, let's say, a commercial building, you know where exactly the commercial buildings should be. And if you are not able to build on your land, the property that is supposed to be there, you are facilitated, mediated by the government to have someone else come and invest in that property, and they can develop what that land was designated to do. Let's say if you are near the airport and in that designated area we have it's scheduled to host hotels and other commercial buildings, then investors they pitch in, they pay you good amount of money that is equivalent to what you owe, and then you relocate to the place where is maybe if you want to build a residential property or something else where it is designated. I think that's a forward-thinking plan, and I think it pays off because now we are having roads, we are having schools in those designated areas, and if everyone like follow the trend, I think in coming years we will not have to suffer with that kind of issues related to affordable housing and structured living. So my parting remarks on this topic that we were discussing is about, as I said, embracing the diversification and also looking opportunities in our fellow brothers and sisters in Africa, and also focusing not only in government institution but also public sector as well. Thank you so much, Austin, and thank you everyone who has contributed to this topic today.
Remy, thank you very much. As you're talking about, the land and its distribution, you took me back to my few days, months ago when I visited Ethiopia. That is exactly what is going on in Ethiopia. Minister there, Abiy, is doing structures, replacing structures, old buildings into building the new Ethiopia. So this is really a great thanks once again to you for having been with us consistently for the past 4 months. And I really look forward to discussing with you next week on whether the capital that next week we're going to look onto access to capital to address employment gap from our monetary financial institutions. Is it easily accessible? Is it difficult to access capital? And why is it easy or not easy? And we want to address the employment gap. So I look forward to your valuable contribution. As I close Wake Up Africa Fourthly, I would like to thank all our viewers. I was not able to read the comments from Valentine of Mombasa, Kenya, and Emma from South Africa, as well as Abby from Ghana, who have shared their comments. Thank you very much for your comments. I'm sorry, in interest of time, I was not able to read them. But this also, again, is to thank Patricia from Kenya, from Uganda, Talks from Nigeria, and for your valuable contribution. We missed you, Aminata, today from Tanzania. Elliot from Rwanda and Africa and the regime. Look forward to size next week. As I said, access to capital is what we shall be looking forward to next week. And I would like once again to really thank the producers, Esther and Noreen, for your consistency in making sure that Wake Up Africa is progressing. Up until next week, thank you so much for watching and joining Wake Up Africa, broadcasting